All right, next we have Alta deVos. Alta is a lecturer in environmental science at Rhodes University in Grahamstown, South Africa. In her research, she focuses on trying to understand how protected areas function as social ecological systems and how they change over time. But today she's here in a different capacity, representing the MAPA Project, a nonprofit initiative that she once helped manage and is now involved in on a volunteer basis. MAPA is a small nonprofit that tells the stories of conservation in Africa, mostly by helping other public benefit organizations to create online maps of the work that they do and the places that they protect. So please welcome Alta deVos.
So I want to start with a small story. This is the Fynbos Estate, or the Simpson Nature Reserve. It's a small contract nature reserve just outside Cape Town, which was proclaimed via our stewardship program. The stewardship program, like in many other countries in the world, is an initiative where individual landowners work with provincial authorities to get legal status for their land and protect it into perpetuity, or at least for a particular point or period of time. It's been one of the great success stories in South African conservation, which is all the more significant because there are very few fiscal benefits. So these areas get protected because the landowners believe that it's important, essentially. So that's one kind of story. Something that you've heard this week of already, stories of deforestation and defaunation, stories of new conservation models for protection, stories of wildlife and wilderness and wonder. And so at the MAPA Project, we kind of exist to help tell these stories, usually with online mapping tools, but also in other ways, and usually centered around protected areas. And so the World Parks Congress coming up in just a little while, we felt that it was within our mandate to run a small campaign, like a 3-month campaign, on different stories in protected areas, so kind of casting a spotlight on African parks, so African protected areas. So when I say campaign, it's very simple. It's a story or two using a few different technologies that we highlighted on our blog and in this map that we created every week. So just once or twice a week, update that and present a new story for a new protected area. We felt that we could do this despite the fact, run this little campaign, despite the fact that we are, like Cynthia's organization, also we don't have any permanent staff, we're completely volunteer, and we don't really have the money or capacity to do anything really big. But that's not to say that we are without resources. So from last year's Geo for Good, we had the use of a Nexus phone, which we could go into the fields and actually collect photospheres, which was very helpful. And that also brought to light the view site. And we discovered that not all protected areas in Africa has street view, like Gombe, but a lot of them have people who have gone into them and have taken these beautiful 3D panoramas. And we thought that we could put that into a layer and surface that as a way of telling a particular kind of stories. We also had the use of a Google Maps engine grant, which we actually use in our work all the time in all sorts of ways, usually to move big sets of data around, help organizations visualize big sets of data. But it turns out that it's also a very useful platform for just pulling layers together, tell a story, and publish it onto the World Wide Web very easily. And then, of course, we had access to these free tools that you've been learning about for the last little while. So to actually put the map together was incredibly simple. We simply put the blog posts that we wanted to feature and the photospheres that we wanted to show in 2 different spreadsheets. We loaded it up to Maps Engine and had it geocoded. Then we used form to fusion tables. We used a little Google form. So put that on our website and allowed people to submit their own stories. And then sort of linked that via the form to fusion table script to a fusion table and via KML network link into this map, which I might just show. And if it doesn't work, then that's also fine. Okay, so this is just the map. And you can see these little stories. Will this map change the world? Definitely not. I can't even tell you that it will get very high ratings on the Google Maps gallery or or that lots of people will look at it. But what I can tell you is that shortly after we published this map, I got an email from Diana Simpson, Simons, the owner of the reserve that I showed you earlier, saying that they had embedded the photosphere that we took of their farm on their website, and they blogged about it because it being represented on this map in the context of these other protected areas was a small amount of validation for them. I can also tell you that I used this map with my second years to help them understand some more theoretical protected area concepts in a way that a PowerPoint presentation probably couldn't have done. And I can definitely tell you that this little campaign, as limited as it was, would definitely not have happened if the tools to create it wasn't readily and easily available. And I think that's kind of the moral of my story, sort of following on from what Cynthia was saying as well, is I think that it's wonderful that we have these organizations using these tools in these cutting-edge ways, creating impact and change at a global and national scales. But I think it's equally important that small organizations with limited capacity and time can use these tools to do the work that they need to do on the scales that they need to be active. And I think what that means is that that the community of this is a mix of people who are active on all different levels and scales. And I think that is a very powerful agent of change. Thank you.